What separates people who succeed from those who stay stuck is not some hidden gift. It is not a special kind of genius, and it is not a rare talent only a few are born with. The truth is far simpler, and it is right in front of us. The people who rise, the people who achieve, the people who make their dreams a reality, they simply show up every single day. That is the secret you came here for. And in the next few minutes, you are going to realize that what you thought you were missing, talent, luck, or perfect timing, is not what you need at all. What you need is already in your hands. Let me start by saying this as clearly as possible. You do not need more talent. Somewhere along the way, many of us convinced ourselves that we were not enough. Maybe you have looked at someone you admire, a singer, an athlete, an entrepreneur, or even a classmate who always seemed to get better grades, and thought they just have something I do not. We give talent too much credit, as if it is the magic ticket to success. But talent alone does not guarantee anything. Think about it. How many incredibly talented people do you know who never went anywhere with it? The guy who was amazing at football in school but never trained seriously? The friend who could draw beautifully but never practiced enough to get better? Or the person who sang like an angel but stopped because life got busy? Talent without effort fades into the background. Now, let us flip the script. How many people have you seen who did not seem extraordinary at first, but somehow they climbed higher and higher, until one day you looked at them and thought, wow, how did they get there? They may not have started as the smartest in the room, the most athletic, or the most creative, but they kept showing up. And that simple act of being there every single day transformed them into someone remarkable. Here's the truth. Talent might get you started, but it is consistency that takes you across the finish line. Think about a gym. The strongest person in there is not the one who had the best genetics. It is usually the person who kept coming back, who trained week after week, even when it was boring, even when no one was watching. Muscles do not care about talent. They grow because of repetition. The same goes for skills, careers, relationships, or personal goals. Let me give you a small story. There was once a teacher who gave two groups of students a photography project. One group was told, take only one photo, but make it perfect. The other group was told, take as many photos as you can, do not worry about perfection. At the end of the semester, guess who had the best photos? The second group. Why? Because by showing up, taking picture after picture, they learned from mistakes. They improved naturally, and they produced incredible results. The first group kept waiting for talent and perfection to strike, but it never did. And maybe that is you right now. Maybe you are waiting for the day you will feel ready, waiting until you feel talented enough, confident enough, or smart enough to start. But here is the reality. You will never feel fully ready. If you are waiting for talent to magically appear, you will be waiting your whole life. The good news is, you do not need it. All you need is the courage to start and the discipline to keep going. Do not underestimate what happens when you just show up today and then again tomorrow, day after day, step by step. It is like water dripping on a rock. One drop seems too small to matter, but over time it carves through stone. Your daily actions, no matter how small, shape your future more than talent ever will. So if you have been sitting there doubting yourself because you think you are not talented enough, let me tell you this. Talent is not your ticket. Effort is, commitment is, showing up is. Stop measuring yourself against people who look like they were born gifted. Measure yourself by how many times you keep showing up when you could have quit. At the end of the day, it is not the most talented who win. It is the ones who refuse to give up, the ones who are willing to be beginners, the ones who are not afraid to look foolish at first. That is where real growth happens. So remember this, you do not need more talent. You just need to show up today. Now here's the thing, you might be thinking, all right, I get it. I do not need more talent. But what about the plan? What if I do not know exactly how to get where I want to go? And that is where a lot of people get stuck. They think unless they have the perfect blueprint, the perfect roadmap, or the perfect strategy, they cannot even begin. But let me tell you the truth. You do not need the perfect plan either. Let me explain. Have you ever met someone who spends months planning, preparing, and organizing, but never actually takes the first step? Maybe they are building a business, and they will not start until the website looks flawless. Or they are planning to write a book, but they are still researching. Or they want to get in shape, but they are waiting until they buy the perfect gym clothes, the perfect shoes, and the perfect diet plan. We all know that person. Sometimes that person is us. The problem is, planning feels safe. Planning feels productive. You can sit at your desk, making lists, drawing charts, imagining how everything will go. But here's the secret. Planning is not progress. Action is progress. And no matter how much you plan, real life will never unfold exactly the way you mapped it out on paper. Think about the GPS on your phone. When you put in a destination, does it give you every single turn, bump, and delay you will encounter before you even start driving? Of course not. It just shows you the first turn, and then, as you keep moving, it recalculates. That is how life works. You do not need the entire map before you begin. You just need the courage to take the first turn. Here is a story you might like. There was once a young man who wanted to start a business selling t-shirts. He waited and waited and waited because he wanted the perfect design, the perfect supplier, and the perfect launch date. Years passed, and he had nothing to show for it. Meanwhile, another guy in the same city decided to just start. He printed a few shirts, sold them to friends, learned what worked, and kept adjusting. Guess who built a brand? The one who started messy. The one who was willing to learn along the way. See, the perfect plan does not exist. What exists is learning while doing. The best plan is the one that gets you moving. Even if you stumble, even if you get it wrong, you are still further ahead than the person waiting for perfection. Let us take fitness as another example. You do not need the perfect workout program to get results. You do not need to know every science-backed detail about nutrition before you can start eating better. You just need to begin. Walk around the block, do a set of push-ups. Eat one healthy meal today. That is how progress starts, not by reading the 10th article about the optimal routine, but by showing up, even imperfectly. And here's something freeing. Starting messy is not failure, it is practice. Nobody looks at a baby learning to walk and says, "Well, they fell down again. Guess walking is not for them." No, we laugh, we cheer, we encourage. Falling is expected. But when it is us, suddenly we think, if I cannot do it perfectly, maybe I should not do it at all. That mindset is poison. Here's what I want you to hear. The perfect plan is an illusion. Success is built on imperfect action, corrected over time. The sooner you start, the sooner you learn. The sooner you learn, the sooner you get better. And before you know it, those small, clumsy first steps turn into something extraordinary. So, if you are waiting for the stars to align, stop waiting. If you are waiting for everything to feel safe and certain, stop waiting. Progress is not found in perfection. Progress is found in motion. Take the step, even if it is shaky. Begin the project, even if you do not have it all figured out. Say yes to the opportunity, even if you are not fully ready. Because here's the truth. You will figure it out along the way, is where it all comes together. You might not have the most talent. You might not have the perfect plan. But if you learn this one principle, you will always stay in the game. You just need to show up again and again. Consistency is the great equalizer. It is what separates the dreamers from the doers. Because let us be honest, it is not hard to show up once. Almost anyone can start something. People start diets all the time. They sign up for gyms every January. They buy a journal and write the first page. They launch projects with excitement and fire. The problem is not starting. The problem is staying. Think about it like this. Have you ever planted something? The first day you bury the seed, water it, and stand there proudly. You are excited. Day 2, you check again. Nothing yet, but you are hopeful. Day 3, still dirt. Day 4, dirt again. By day 7, you might start to wonder if the seed is even alive. Most people quit watering around that point. The truth is, if you had just kept going, eventually that tiny green shoot would push through the soil. Success works the same way. Growth is invisible at first, but when you keep showing up, something is happening beneath the surface. The people who succeed are not the ones who had instant results. They are the ones who kept showing up long enough for the results to appear. Imagine if Thomas Edison had stopped after the first 50 times he failed to invent the light bulb. Or if Michael Jordan had quit basketball after getting cut from his high school team. Their greatness was not born from a single magical moment. It was built from showing up repeatedly, even when nothing seemed to be working. Here's the funny part. Most people underestimate the power of boring repetition. They want the excitement, the instant reward, the fireworks. But the real growth hides in those dull, ordinary days when you show up even though you do not feel like it. Think about brushing your teeth. Nobody says, "Wow, that one time I brushed for 2 minutes changed my life." No, it is the fact that you brush every single day that makes the difference. Consistency compounds. Let me give you a small, everyday example. Imagine someone learning guitar. The first day they practice for 3 hours straight. Their fingers hurt, their enthusiasm is high. The next day, they skip. Day after, they skip again. Fast forward a month, they have barely improved. Now compare that to someone who only practices for 15 minutes every day. Small, consistent practice. A month later, who is better? Of course, the person who kept showing up, not because they had more talent, not because they had the perfect plan, but because they refused to stop. Here is the challenge. Life will always give you reasons not to show up. You will be tired. You will be busy. You will not feel like it. But those are the exact moments when showing up matters most. Because when you show up on the hard days, you prove to yourself that you are serious. And each time you push through, you are building mental muscle. Think about professional athletes. You think they feel motivated every single day? No way. But they show up anyway. Why? It's because they know consistency beats motivation. Motivation is a spark. It is great, but it fades. Consistency is the fuel that keeps the fire alive. Let me put it simply. If you want results, you cannot negotiate with yourself every morning. You cannot wait until you feel like it. You just need to show up, even if you are tired, even if you are busy, even if progress feels slow. Because here is the truth. You do not need to be perfect. You just need to be present. And here is the reward. One day you will look back and realize all those small, ordinary days added up to something extraordinary. You will realize that by simply showing up again and again, you became the kind of person who does not quit, the kind of person who follows through, the kind of person who wins. So do not worry about being the most talented. Do not stress about having the perfect plan. Just keep showing up. Because consistency, more than anything else, is the bridge from where you are to where you want to be. Here is where it gets interesting. We just talked about showing up again and again, and that naturally leads us to the real engine behind success. Consistency. Showing up is the action. Consistency is the force that turns those small actions into unstoppable momentum. It is the hidden power most people overlook because it rarely feels dramatic in the moment. But when you add it up over time, it changes everything. Think about brushing your teeth. One day of brushing does nothing. 2 days, still nothing noticeable. But brush twice a day for a year, and you keep your teeth healthy. Neglect it for the same amount of time, and you are in trouble. That is consistency. Tiny choices repeated over and over, creating massive results. Here's the problem. People get bored with consistency because it is not flashy. It's doing the same thing every day does not feel exciting. It feels ordinary. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, ordinary feels invisible. But ordinary repeated long enough becomes extraordinary. Take fitness as an example. Imagine 2 people join a gym. One goes hard for 2 weeks, lifting like a maniac, pushing until they collapse, then disappears for a month. The other does moderate workouts 3 times a week, nothing extreme, just steady effort. Come back 6 months later, who looks better? Who feels stronger? Not the one who went all out for a moment. It is the one who kept showing up consistently. Consistency has a way of multiplying results in every area of life. Think of money. Saving a little every month might not feel like much. You could buy a coffee instead. But leave that money to grow, and over years it compounds into something powerful. Same is true for habits. Read 10 pages a day, and in a year you finish several books. Write 1 paragraph a day, and in a year you have a manuscript. Consistency is the quiet investor of your future. Here's a story that shows it well. There was a man who decided to run every single morning, rain or shine. At first his neighbors laughed. They said, "Why bother? Missing a day will not matter." But he did not miss. One day turned into a month. A month turned into a year. Soon, he was not just the guy who ran every morning. He was a marathon finisher, a role model, and an inspiration to others. His neighbors stopped laughing. They started running with him. What changed his life was not one heroic run, but the fact that he ran consistently, no matter how small the effort felt at first. And here is something powerful. Consistency beats motivation every single time. Motivation comes and goes. It is like weather, sunny one day, stormy the next. But consistency is like gravity. It is always there. You cannot depend on motivation to carry you to your goals, but you can depend on the habits you build through consistent action. Let me make this practical. If you want to get better at something, anything, stop worrying about how talented you are. Stop worrying if you have the perfect plan. Focus on building a rhythm you can repeat. If you want to get in shape, start with small workouts you can actually stick to. If you want to improve your finances, start with tiny regular savings. If you want to grow in your career, show up every day ready to learn, even if it is just one new skill or insight at a time. It does not need to be glamorous, it just needs to be steady. The hidden power of consistency is that it changes how you see yourself. Every time you show up, you cast a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Do it long enough, and the identity sticks. You do not just run anymore. You become a runner. You do not just write occasionally. You become a writer. You do not just study. You become a learner. That shift is where true transformation happens. Here's the part most people miss. Consistency is not about intensity. It is about identity. It is about becoming someone who can be counted on, even by yourself. When you keep showing up, you build trust with yourself. When you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with excuses. That is when real confidence is born. So the next time you feel like your efforts are too small to matter, remember this. The most powerful results in life rarely come from a single giant leap. They come from the small, steady steps you repeat day after day. That is the hidden power of consistency. Quiet, invisible at first, but unstoppable in the long run. We have seen how consistency quietly transforms everything. But here's the part that surprises most people. You do not need massive leaps to change your life. You just need small, steady steps. Because while consistency is the engine, small steps are the fuel. Think about it this way. A staircase is climbed one step at a time. Nobody jumps from the bottom to the top in a single leap. The climb feels slow, but before long, you realize how high you have gone. That is how change works. You do not rebuild your health in a week. You do not master a skill in a month. You do not transform your life overnight. But if you take one small step each day, the results will shock you over time. The trouble is, people underestimate small actions. They look at tiny steps and think, that is not enough. Skipping one workout feels harmless. Spending one more dollar feels insignificant. Delaying one more day feels easy to justify. But here's the truth. Small actions compound, whether positive or negative. One day of skipping might not matter, but stack up enough of them, and suddenly, you are far from where you wanted to be. On the other hand, one small improvement, repeated daily, builds a completely new future. 10 minutes of reading turns into knowledge that changes careers. 15 minutes of exercise turns into energy that transforms health. 5 minutes of gratitude each morning turns into a mindset that rewires your outlook on life. The steps feel small, but the destination they create is massive. Here's a simple story. A teacher once told his students, if you improve by just 1% every day, by the end of the year, you will be 37 times better. At first, the students laughed. 1% sounded too tiny to matter, but math does not lie. Growth compounds. Small steps are not small when they are repeated. You can see this everywhere in life. A person who saves a little each month eventually has freedom others only dream of. A person who practices a skill for a few minutes daily eventually surpasses those who only talk about talent. A person who makes one healthy choice each day ends up with a completely different body and energy level. Change sneaks up on you when you are faithful with the small steps. And here is where it all comes together. Showing up daily, not needing talent, not needing the perfect plan, and leaning on consistency. All of it flows into this truth. Big change is nothing more than small steps multiplied over time. So, do not wait for the perfect day to start. Do not wait for giant leaps. Ask yourself, what small step can I take today? That is where transformation begins. When you strip it all down, the formula is simple. You do not need more talent. You do not need the perfect plan. You just need to show up again and again. Because when you do, you unlock the hidden power of consistency. And when you lean on that power, the small steps you take every day add up to life-changing results. So here is the challenge. Do not underestimate today. Do not dismiss the small things. Take the step in front of you. Show up for it. Then do it again tomorrow and the day after. Before long, you will look back and realize those little steps carried you farther than you ever imagined. Your future is built in the present, one action at a time. The question is not whether you are talented enough or whether your plan is perfect. The real question is, will you show up today? Because the life you want is waiting, and it starts the moment you decide to keep walking, one small step at a time.